Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and happy Halloween! I have a Halloween collab for you guys today with a bunch of other talented YouTube doll artists. The theme of this collaboration was just Halloween, so we all have some spooky dolls for y'all. The talented peeps in this collaboration are His Name Is Akin, Moonlight Jewel, H. Alley Crafts, Val Kitty's World, Hexgen, Enchantarium, The Dolly Geek, Kiro's Workshop, The Doll Fairy, Harley's Dollhouse, and Dolly Pop Dolls. I highly recommend watching everyone's video. I think everybody did a really good job. I'm gonna link them down in the description box, so check that out for your viewing pleasure. So what am I doing? So if you guys have been around this channel for this past month, then you would know that I've been extremely obsessed with the G3 Monster High dolls. I've been on the hunt for them. I have quite a few of them. I've spent way too much money on them. I've just made a lot of life choices this month. But yeah, so I desperately wanted to paint one, and we're gonna be doing that today. So which one are we painting? I mean, if you read the title of this video, you would know. We're painting Draculaura. She's my favorite from the line. I wasn't sure what I wanted to make with her. I just knew that I wanted to paint her. So I did some thinking about it, and I was like, let's show off those curves, because this doll, G3 Draculaura, has beautiful curves. She has like a nice big old butt, cute little thighs, and let's make a sexy witch. If you guys aren't familiar with G3, Draculaura has a significantly different body than her predecessors. The Draculaura that I have is from the Ghoul Spirit 6-pack, which I actually have a review of. If you guys are interested, I'll link that down in the description box. She has all the standard Monster High articulation, but also a chest joint, which I'm so here for because it's kind of rare with fashion dolls. But Monster High was like, no, chest joints for all. And I'm so here for this chest joint. I'm pro chest joint, come through chest joint, yes please. I'm doing all of the standard prepping, so I'm cutting her hair off. Draculaura's hair actually isn't awful. Claudine's hair is. Draculaura's isn't, but I want to give her a different hair color. So I'm cutting it all off, and then I'm going to be heating up her head in hot water, which, by the way, ignore my hot water. I know it looks nasty. I get my hot water out of my Keurig, okay? So she just has a nice coffee smell afterwards. Once it's all nice and heated, we yank that bad boy off. I scraped around the inside of her head with a screwdriver, which for some reason I lost footage of. But once I got all those little chunks dislodged, I went through the neck hole with my needle nose pliers, pulled them out. It was a little bit difficult to get them out, so I did cut a slit in the back of her head and pulled the rest out that way. It's time for the moment of truth. Let's see if this sculpt looks good. I hadn't seen the sculpt before prior to doing this, so I'm wiping her face away, her face paint, with 100% acetone, and I just wasn't sure what to expect because I knew the sculpt was probably different just looking at the ears and just kind of like the face contours. But yeah, the sculpt is quite a bit different. So as you can see, I mean, it's pretty similar, but the eyes are the main difference. I don't know if I prefer, I think I prefer Gen 1 and Gen 2's eye sculpt, but I do really like the ears on this doll. I also like that the head is smaller. The head is definitely smaller than Gen 1, but it seems like it's the same size height-wise with Gen 2, but the cheeks are definitely not as pronounced. For the hair, I decided to go with gray, so we're going to be painting her scalp gray with acrylic paint. You do this in case there's any gaps in the rerouting, it's just not as obvious. Since we cut a big old slit in the back of her head, we need to sew it up with a needle, thread, and some pliers. For hair, I'm gonna use Periwinkle Blue from the Doll Planet. It says it's blue, but like, this is gray, let's be honest. Also, I wanted to mention, I really like Draculaura with a widow's peak. I think it just makes her look more vampy. Also, I have a weird thing for widow's peaks. List of things I have a weird thing for: blotchy skin, widow's peaks, and dimple chins. Aw, that rhymed. But also, ignore this reroute tool. I know it looks crazy. I'm gonna be switching it out at some point while rerouting. I just like to push them to the limits. The last thing that I did for the hair was the part, because you have to reroute this a little bit thicker. To set all that hair into place, I'm using some Fabri-Tac glue, and I'm just squeezing that in through the neck hole. Her hair is a little bit poofy and I want it to lay flatter, so I'm pouring boiling water on her head. We finally get into the face up, so I spray the doll 3 times with Mr. Super Clear, waiting 15 minutes between each spray and wearing a respirator mask, and then we start drawing. I start with the eyes, and if you guys saw my Demon Ballerina video, then you would know that I mentioned in that video that I like it when Draculaura's eyes are sketched a little bit closer together than how they're molded on. I find that with G1, G2, and also this G3, that the eyes are molded on a little bit too far apart for my liking, and I wish I would have taken that into account, what I mentioned in my last doll repaint, but I just didn't for some reason. Probably because I wasn't super comfortable with this mold and I was just kind of going with the flow. But I wish I just would have sketched her eyes a little bit closer together. It's a nitpick. I really liked painting red eyes for my last video, so I decided to paint red eyes for this video as well. I was just in a red eye kick. I find that doing doll eyes is one of my favorite steps for face ups, but I also really like blushing, so I like to do that next. And I'm just putting that on her cheeks, her nose, forehead, and her chin. Just a little bit of pink. With red pastel, I tap that onto her lips. We need to shade them eyes, so I take a lighter brown and I just tap that on the inner and outer portion of her upper lid. I also tap it around her face, so around her nostrils, her upper lip, and the corners of her mouth. I do a wee bit of coloring in her nostrils with a dark brown. To make her skin look a little bit more skin-like, I take my fluffy small brush and some purple and I tap that on her forehead and underneath her eyes. We love a gradient here, so I use a Q-tip and tap that on her upper and lower lip in the middle. I really love adding a fairly detailed waterline to my dolls, so I'm coloring in the waterline with a bit of peach pencil. Now for my blues, so I add some blue pastel around the brow bone, underneath the eyes, the upper lip, the chin, I think also below the eyes, on the cheeks, just sort of all over the place. Also the ears. I think it's very important to blush ears. I think it looks really nice. But once I'm done that, I add some veins. So I'm taking my barely pigmented Faber-Castell pencil, and it's also a little nubbin now, but I'm adding branch-like pencil marks around the eyes and the forehead. And the ears, because the ears are important, again. So I add some veins there too. We begin the lip lines, so I'm taking a dark red and I'm flicking lines going down on the upper and the lower lip. To make her lips a little bit more defined, I outline the very top of her upper lip, but I do this with a lighter red pencil so that it doesn't stand out quite as much as the lip wrinkles. I almost forgot something so important. I almost forgot her blotchy blushing on her cheeks. I really like this look because I feel like it makes the doll look like she just came out from cold weather or the snow. We begin the beginning stages of highlights, which is just white pastel on the brow bone, underneath the eyes, the inner corner, nostrils, all that good stuff. To further shade the lids, I take some dark brown pastel and I tap that on the inner and outer portion of her upper lid. With all the shading and highlights, I lost a lot of the lines of her upper lid, so I'm bringing that back with a dark brown pencil. To give the eye color a little bit more depth, and also because I'm too lazy to build up the eye color with pencils, I'm tapping pastels and corresponding shades on top of the iris. We're doing the eyebrows, and since her whole vibe is like sexy but like also slightly devious, like she's not evil but like she a little naughty, I don't know, that's her vibe. But I am bringing her eyebrows like pretty close to her eyes, and then I'm also making them very slanted. I add more defined highlight lines around the eyes and the lips with a really sharp white pencil. The outer corners of Draculaura's lips are very defined, so I'm defining them even more with a black pencil, but I feel like the definedness, like it looks like she's smiling, but it's almost kind of like this trendy thing that I've seen on Instagram on illustrations. I'll show you guys like a little picture of what I'm talking about, but it looks like that's molded onto her lips, which I really dig because I like that look. After this, I lost a little bit of footage, but all that I lost was I added a gold ring around her iris with metallic gold paint, and I colored in the whites of her eyes with white watercolor. I'm tapping some black pastel underneath her upper lid on her iris so that it looks like her eye is in shadow. For the final stage of highlights, I'm taking white watercolor and I'm adding this in certain areas on top of the white pencil. I'm not completely covering the white pencil, I'm just kind of emphasizing it with the white watercolor. We need brow hairs, so we're gonna give her some. I'm doing some flicks of black watercolor pencil on them brows. Her upper iris is really dark, so I'm tapping some red metallic watercolor on her pupil. For the highlight lip lines, I want them to be a little bit more subtle, so I'm taking a lighter peach and I'm flicking that on her lower lip, and then I'm taking some macro pearlix pigment and I put that all over her face. With thinned out white watercolor, I flick some white radiating towards the pupil. I do the beginning stages of lashes, and I like doing this with my Faber-Castell black watercolor pencil. I like this pencil because it's not the most black, but it is my hardest pencil, so it gives me the thinnest lines. I go over the pencil lines with some black watercolor paint, and there may be a question of why do you do the lines with the pencil if you're just going to go over them with watercolor paint, and I do it because I want something to trace over with the paint. There's a pretty similar mindset for what I did with the lashes for the brows, so I'm just flicking some black paint over top of the brow hair. We extend those lashes a little bit by flicking some purple metallic pencil on the very ends of the outer portion of the lashes. I like the waterline to have a very watery look, so I tap some rose gold metallic paint onto the outer and inner portion of the waterline. Next, I do a similar thing with white paint, but I tap some of that specifically into the middle of the waterline, but also the outer and inner portion as well. I do some final little highlight dots on the outer portions of the lips, the cheeks, and a little dot on the nose. I I decided she needed a little witchy thing on her forehead, so I'm sketching in a crescent moon design with my pencil and going back over it with paint. With my metallic paints, I take a duochrome blue one and I add a line of that to her lash line as a highlight. So I took my white watercolor and I added her catch lights. And after I was done them, I decided that I just did not like her eyes. I just didn't like the eye color. In retrospect, I do kind of like it. I just don't think I like how I painted the highlights. So I decided to do a little bit more of a minimalist approach to the eyes and also a more minimal color that wasn't as intense. So I took some purples because I haven't done a purple eye doll in a while, and I just completely painted over all of those iris details that took me forever. After the base color was laid down, I took a highlight color and I did a ring of that around the iris. To lighten up the eye a little bit, I tapped a dark metallic purple watercolor on top of the pupil. I traced over that highlight on the left side with a light purple metallic watercolor. Instead of white highlight lines radiating all throughout the iris, I only did 2 on the right and the left side of the eye. To break up some of those highlights, because there's quite a few of them, I flicked some black around the white and then also just sort of the middle of the eye going towards the pupil. I decided that a more simplistic eye shine would probably work a little bit better for this, since there is a lot of lines of detail on the eyes, so I just did 2 little dots. I'm taking my Tamiya, I think I'm saying that right, Tamiya, tomato, Dolly Pop, who's actually in this collab, told me how to pronounce this gloss, and I forget, and I don't feel like scrolling up in a chat, so whoopsie daisies. If I'm saying it wrong, sorry. But I'm just adding that gloss to the lips and a little bit to the nose, because it's cute. A final step that I did off camera is I wanted her pupil to pop a little bit more, so I went over the purple metallic paint with some red metallic paint. On to body blushing. So I sanded off the panties, and I just wanted to show y'all because it looks so good with the panties sanded off. Like, honestly. But I blushed the body with the same tones that I used on the face. So pinks, reds, purples, browns, blah, blah, blah. You guys know the drill. All of her curves and everything look so good blush. I just feel like it brings them out even more. Oh my god, love her so much. Every witch needs a hat, so she's no different. She needs one. I feel like witch hats are like kind of easy to make. It's sort of like a pleasant experience. But I'm taking my 2 little donuts and I am sewing them together good side to good side. Once those are all sewn, we flip them. Wow. When 2 donuts come together and fall in love, they make a slightly frumpy brim to a witch hat. Now for the pointy bit. So I fold that in half and sew it together good side to good side. Then we must flip. After it's been flipped, I sew the pointy bit to the donut bit, good side to good side. Then voila, we have a witch hat, but I want it to be like one of those droopy witch hats, so we're gonna sew it and make it a droopy witch hat. So I'm just folding it in half, the pointy bit, and I'm just sewing that in place. I want to give the end of her hat a star charm, but I don't have any, and I don't have any in the right color. So I painted this bead silver, and then I hot glued a ring to the top hole of it and sewed that in place. I glued a tassel to the end of the bead and fashioned her a belt to put around the brim of the hat, and that's her witch hat. We're going to be making her a simple off-the-shoulder belly shirt, so I cut this pattern out and I hemmed everything with glue. After the glue dried, I sewed the shoulder straps together, good side to good side. Now for underpants. So I have this thing, which is a crotch and then the butt, but we gotta sew them together with some silver straps. I love me a good corset, so we're gonna be making one. I have this thing that is going to be wrapping around her waist, but we need to put some eyelets in it, so I'm using my little eyelet kit. I also cut these two rectangles out that are going to be wrapping around her arms, and we're going to add eyelets to those as well. I feel like eyelets are fun because they can look really professional and they're also really easy to add. If you guys were unsure of what size to get, 1mm grommets are pretty perfect for 1/6 scale dolls. I bought a couple 2mm grommets as well, and I wanted to add one of those to the middle of her underwear. Alright, I'm gonna make some stockings. I know I literally just made stockings for my diva doll with this fabric, but it works really well with her color scheme, so it also works really well for stockings. So I'm making them for this doll too, okay? But I am sewing a leather piece to the very top and then sewing them up the back. Now for shoes. So I've only made very simplistic shoes out of Warbler, but today, I said today's the day, we're gonna be making some boots. So I cut a bunch of pieces that I thought would work for boots, and I'm warming them up with my heat gun. I'm starting with the base, or the sole of the shoe. I wrap tape around her feet so that the Warbler won't get stuck to them. I'm molding that sole to the bottom of her feet. I cut the sole a little bit too big, so I'm just trimming it down with some scissors. This piece is going to be wrapping around the front of her foot, and it's also the tongue of the boot. To get those two pieces flush together, I just pinch them where they connect. I place the two side pieces on the sides and mold them to the foot. Where that tongue and the side piece connect, I want a little bit of slack, so I'm making sure they're not flush because I want to add holes so that I can lace up these boots. The final piece is a strip that I'm going to be adding to the back. I wanted that like fold down boot look, so I'm heating up the Warbler and folding the three pieces down. Once I fold them down, I'm going to be pinching them together so that they all connect. Since we're gonna have to take these boots off, and I can't at the state they're in right now, I'm heating up the back and then I'm cutting a giant slit back there. Like I was saying, I'm going to lace up these boots, so I'm heating up the front and I'm taking the two side pieces and a giant needle and just sticking a bunch of holes evenly spaced out, going up the sides of the boot. I wanted her to have a heel, so I heat up that back where her heel is, and I'm plunging a needle back there so that I can have a base for the heel. To create the heel and a little bit of a platform for the bottom of her shoe, I'm building that up with epoxy sculpt. To get everything nice and smooth, I smooth it out with a bit of water. I wanted where the sole of the boot and the main part of the boot connect to have a little bit of a differentiation between the two of them, so I took a snake of Warbler and I wrapped it around that area. I did sand down the sole of the boot, by the way. I just did it off camera. I always sand things off camera because it's just easier for my life, okay? But I painted everything black with acrylic paint. I painted the sole of the boot and also where I'm going to be lacing them up with some metallic silver paint. To add a little bit more detail, I'm taking some gray paint and I'm just adding lines of that around all of the different sections of the boot. Now we must lace them up. So I like this specific thread for lacing up doll things. It's a little bit thicker than a normal thread and a little bit thinner than like a embroidery thread. So I don't know, it just works well for me. But I'm going to take the red one and I'm lacing up this boot. And I'm doing so by putting it through a needle and then shoving the needle through each one of the holes. I tied the boots in a little bow and they're done, and I must say I'm actually kind of proud of these boots because again, all my shoes that I've made in the past have been really simplistic and these are a little bit more detailed, and to be honest, they weren't that hard. It was pretty, like there wasn't like a lot of trial and error. Now we must lace up all of her other things, so her corset, which was relatively easy, but these armbands were not, okay, it was just a lot of lacing. And with that, y'all, she is done. I wanted to also mention that I found this thing in my Monster High accessory stash, and I just thought it went really well with her overall aesthetic, so I just added it to her design, and I'm pretty happy with how she turned out. I just think she is truly, I guess, a sexy witch. I don't know. I really like her, so I hope you guys like her too. I wanted to give her a wand, but to be honest, I ran out of time, so but she's like, you know what, she's like a witch, and like she shoots like magical things out of her hands, like Scarlet Witch or something. I have made wands before on this channel as well, which if you guys want to see that, I will link my other witch video, but it's like a way different vibe down in the description box. I also wanted to show her with my other Halloween babies because I feel like they all sort of go together, and as well as with a G1, G2, and now G3 Monster High doll that I painted, so you guys can see, I guess, how they look together and like kind of a comparison. The G1 and G2 doll are from a while ago. The one is my mini-me. It needs a new face. I know, she needs a new face. But the G2 doll is also from quite a while ago. I wanted to mention as well, I don't know if anybody else finds this, but my G2 doll was when I was still putting gloss on dolls' eyes, and I find that it like fades dolls. Has anybody else found that? Or maybe I'm just being like weird and I'm seeing things that aren't actually there, but I feel like it fades dolls, like it makes the details run a little bit. I don't know. Let me know if you've experienced that. But if you guys want to check out all the other videos, again, they're linked down in the description box. I also made a Ko-fi. Is it Ko-fi or coffee? I don't know. I just saw other creators making it and I figured I would make one as well. It's just a site where you can tip people. So if you guys are interested, that's down there, but no pressure. Like this video if you like this video. Subscribe, makes me happy. And happy Halloween! I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Bye!